The day my marriage faced its ultimate test. Sunday dinners had always been a blend of chaos and tradition in our household. Jake and I hosted these dinners religiously, partly because Jake loved having his family over, and partly because his mother, Margaret, expected it. For the 3 years we'd been married, I had grown accustomed to her passive-aggressive comments, veiled criticisms, and cold demeanor. But nothing prepared me for the storm she unleashed on that fateful Sunday. The morning had started peacefully. Jake and I spent it prepping the house, discussing plans for the evening. "Let's not forget Mom's casserole obsession," Jake teased, rolling his eyes. "Do we have enough room in the oven?" I chuckled. "Always. I even made space for her legendary green bean casserole." Jake leaned in to kiss my cheek. "You're amazing for putting up with her." "Don't I know it?" I replied, half joking. Little did I know this Sunday would be different. It wouldn't be about awkward small talk, fake smiles, or Margaret's judgmental glances. No, this Sunday would change everything. Margaret arrives. Margaret arrived precisely at 5 p.m., as she always did. She stepped inside, carrying her casserole dish like a prized artifact. Dressed impeccably in navy blue with her signature pearls, she looked every inch the picture-perfect matriarch. But her eyes, as always, carried a sharpness that was impossible to ignore. "Good evening, Jake," she said, smiling warmly at her son. Her tone shifted when she addressed me. "Sarah." "Margaret," I replied, forcing a smile. She swept past me without another word, setting the casserole on the counter. Her eyes scanned the table I'd carefully prepared: white tablecloth, fresh flowers, and neatly arranged silverware. "Roses, huh?" she commented. "Jake's allergic to strong fragrances, isn't he?" I froze. Jake wasn't allergic to anything, but before I could respond, she turned to him with an exaggerated sigh. "You poor thing. Does Sarah not know this after all these years?" Jake frowned. "Mom, I'm not allergic to roses." Margaret pursed her lips. "Oh well, must have been someone else." That was Margaret's way, dropping little bombs of doubt and discomfort. I brushed it off, determined not to let her get to me. Dinner takes a turn. Dinner started off like usual, with Margaret monopolizing the conversation. She talked about Jake's achievements at work, her charity events, and her plans for the upcoming holidays. "I assume you'll be joining us at the lake house this Christmas," she said, directing the comment to Jake. "It'll be nice to have family together." Jake hesitated. "We're still deciding, Mom. Sarah and I might visit her parents this year." Margaret's smile faltered, and I saw a flicker of irritation cross her face. "Oh, of course, your parents." There it was, her disdain for my family, subtle but unmistakable. My parents weren't wealthy or part of the social elite like Margaret, and she never missed an opportunity to remind me. Trying to shift the mood, I complimented her casserole. "This is delicious, Margaret. Thank you for bringing it." She looked at me with a tight-lipped smile. "Well, it's a family recipe. Takes years to perfect. I suppose not everyone has the time or skill for such things." Jake sighed audibly, clearly annoyed. "Mom, can we just enjoy dinner without the jabs?" Margaret's expression softened instantly, as though butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. "Of course, dear. I'm just making conversation." But the real bombshell came after dinner. The tea incident. After we'd cleared the plates, Margaret offered to pour tea. This was unusual, as she rarely helped with anything during these dinners. I hesitated, but decided to accept the gesture, thinking it might be her way of extending an olive branch. She carried the tray of steaming cups into the dining room. I reached for mine, and that's when it happened. Her hand slipped, and the scorching liquid spilled all over me. I gasped as the hot tea soaked through my blouse, the heat stinging my skin. Jake jumped to his feet, grabbing a towel. "Mom, what the hell?" "Oh my goodness!" Margaret exclaimed, her voice full of mock concern. "I didn't mean to. Sarah, you really should be more careful." More careful? My heart pounded with anger, but I bit my tongue. Jake was fuming. "Mom, apologize. Now!" Before she could respond, Margaret pulled a sleek envelope from her purse and slid it across the table. "Actually, there's something I need to discuss with you both." "What's this?" Jake asked, picking up the envelope. It's for Sarah, Margaret said, her tone icy. It's time she understands what's best for everyone. Jake handed me the envelope, his brows furrowed. With shaking hands, I opened it and found a set of divorce papers inside. My blood ran cold as I read the words. Jake needs someone better, Margaret announced, her voice filled with finality. Someone who can support his ambitions and uphold this family's standards. Sarah, I think it's best if you step aside. The aftermath. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Jake's laughter broke the tension. It wasn't a laugh of amusement, but of sheer disbelief. Mom, he said, shaking his head, this is insane. You've completely lost it. Margaret's face hardened. I'm doing this for you, Jake. You deserve a wife who... No, Jake interrupted, his voice steady and firm. I deserve a wife who loves me, supports me, and doesn't try to control me. And I already have that in Sarah. Margaret's composure cracked. She's manipulating you. You can't see it, but she's dragging you down. Jake stood, his face flushed with anger. Enough. You've insulted Sarah for years, and I've let it slide because you're my mom. But this is unforgivable. If you can't respect my wife, you're not welcome in our lives. Margaret's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Finally, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. A new chapter. That night, Jake and I sat together on the couch, my head resting on his shoulder. He held my hand tightly, as though reassuring me of his commitment. I'm sorry it took this for me to stand up to her, he said softly. You deserve better. Tears welled in my eyes, but they were tears of relief. Thank you for choosing me, for us. From that day forward, Margaret's influence in our lives diminished. Jake set clear boundaries, refusing to let her toxic behavior interfere with our marriage. Over time, our home became a haven of love and peace, free from her shadow. Sunday dinners looked different after that day. They were quieter, calmer, and filled with genuine laughter, proof that love and loyalty could triumph over even the most vicious attempts to tear us apart. A peaceful Sunday dinner turned into a nightmare when my mother-in-law poured tea on me and slid divorce papers across the table, declaring I wasn't good enough for her son. What followed was a dramatic showdown that tested the strength of my marriage and revealed the true meaning of loyalty and love.